Rami, do you think that we are being there should be certain degree of tweak as far as India's Myanmar policy is concerned, so as to ensure that this influx is regulated at best, or like how long can you allow this situation to unfold till it becomes a big problem for the state?
Brijesh, this sort of illegal migration that we're talking about, like I said, has been there time immemorial. Like that, there hasn't been a time when there hasn't been infiltration. That is one of the reasons that, it was very important for us to have good relationships with these states so that we could build on policies where there was some sort of mitigation from their side on groups that were operating from these areas. This is one of the biggest reasons that we cannot take our relationship lightly or make it a relationship of, sort of some sort of pressure with any of these countries. As a result, with Myanmar, we've tried to maintain good relations. With Bangladesh, we've tried to maintain good relations. Also, you realize we have to look at this as a whole. We can't look at this as one country versus one country. These are regions that have a revisionist state sitting on their heads, like China. The minute you alienate any of these states, China's there to step in, just the way it tried to step in Myanmar. So these are very delicate situations. Diplomatically, I personally feel, and many might disagree with me because they feel that any sort of democracy is a great democracy. But I think the Myanmaris are highly independent people, and they know what is good for them, and they know how to run their country. And I don't think any other country should be involved in this sort of a situation. Look what happened in Afghanistan, in the guise of bringing democracy in. The US left the entire northwestern frontier for us in a flux. So the same way, I don't think we should be making any of these mistakes. I think we have to respect their integrity as well as we expect them to respect us. So situations are going to remain the same in terms of our diplomatic engagement. As for illegal migration, we have ways and means to sort of limit them, whether it's fencing, whether it's more border patrolling. Also, technology is being used now in terms of face recognition technologies. So these are going to be really important interventions. And of course, there is a process. If you want refuge in this country, there is a process, and you have to follow that legal process, if you want to come in. And that should be followed. Simple as that. There's no reason to, hide and come in, because then public perception goes against you, as well as an element of doubt takes seed. So I think the government needs to speeden up its border fencing, speeden up its patrolling, and take this combing operation also that they are doing. I do believe that in a couple of days we will see a lot more information coming out about the elements that were involved, and maybe that would also make it clear about the kind of involvement of maybe exterior forces, which I said right at the outset that the possibility is high. Most of the conflicts were backed in the Northeast by external forces, whether it was in terms of logistics, whether it was in terms of arming, or whether it was in terms of radical ideologies. So I think a lot of information now is going to come out, and we have to watch out for that and take that into consideration when we discuss the future solutions in this case.
How do we move forward from here? The government has stated a slew of measures yesterday about the relief measures that they intend to put in the state of Manipur. They have also spoken about the judicial commissions, the crackdowns, and so on and so forth. What, according to you, is the way forward, sir?
I'm saying that whatever the inquiry, I hope that it is done properly, and the terms and conditions of the inquiry must be laid out, must be in the public domain. I think so that many of these institutional credibility have been challenged because of this crisis. So I hope that the inquiry commission has that credibility. Term and conditions should be out for public to see. Second is I'm happy for this this peace initiative that the Home Minister has said. But immediate one is, as I said, this armed confrontation between security forces and these armed groups must be, dealt with it with a certain sense of transparency, in the sense that who are these people that security forces are fighting with, uh, and the government of India must come very clean on whether, when I was talking about it, there is a conflict in our neighboring country. There are groups who are fighting the Burmese junta, and the allegation is that some of them have infiltrated. So, and that's why I think it's very important to distinguish the question of illegal immigrations with this present situation. That there are certain specific aspects of the present situation that you must take into account. And I know, as I told you, that there has been a lot of deflections and propaganda and misinformation, conflating issues. You want to discuss about illegal immigration and so on, you can have a specific discussions on that. There are enough works on that. For your information, you must also know that there is a general increase. If you check from 1961 census report to the present, from 31.6, roughly around that percentage of the ST population in 1961, to the present 40 plus percent of the ST. There is an increase of the ST population. What are the factors when, without casting aspersions on this, one should be able to have a systematic analysis of this increase in the ST population. And we must also realize, as I said, there is a porous border, and these kind of things are there. And unfortunately, there has been an attempt to politicize this demographic issues, so much so that some of these tribal scholars wrote in EPW, trying to defend what the Registrar General of Census has called an abnormal growth, decadal growth. That Register General of Census is not the Meitei, not the Manipuri. So, every institution has been suspected. So there has been an issue on that. And thankfully, some scholars from the IIT, non-Manipuri scholars from IIT and Azim Premji University have called them out, this kind of propagandist way of defending this, what is called unnatural growth of these populations. These are matters, but we can have an objective assessment of that one. But I'm saying that right now, the armed confrontation. You should remember that the bombing of the border areas in this conflict in Myanmar right now going on has spilled over to the northeast, and particularly in Manipur, and that needs to be taken into account. And then suddenly you have this thing. So who are these people that Indian Army and Indian security forces, including Manipuri police, are fighting in these hill areas or in the foothills? One must answer these questions. This is a security issue. It is an external aggression, if you may like to call it, if there is an armed group infiltrated. I'm not talking about your shoes per se. I'm talking about the other elements. People have said that those groups who have been fighting the Burmese authorities have infiltrated this site and, snipers rifle, M16 rifles. These things have been talked about. I think instead of the government of India denying or affirming it, they must investigate and let it out. That's why I said I don't like these issues to be pushed under the carpet. That's what I said about the Home Minister. One part which I wasn't happy with is that had it been an allegation of this kind in the western front of the country, I'm pretty sure that many people would have made a statement on that one. Rather than brushing it under the carpet by saying, all kinds of information we have, and I don't want to talk it publicly. That's not the way I would have expected the Home Minister to respond to. So I hate is, as I said, some of the initiatives that the Home Minister has taken. I hope it's been carried out, but you must try to control the violence at the moment, be that in the valley area or a hill area. Whoever is perpetrating this violence must be confronted and rein in. I think that's the first step to go ahead with this. And there are a lot of propaganda and misinformation. It's very easy to hook onto, this narrative of marginalization, tribal discourses in the rest of the country. But you must not forget that there are certain specifics of Manipur. I've seen a lot of these scholars outside the outside the state, talking about SC. They can't even distinguish this between fifth schedule and sixth schedule, the tribal in the so-called mainstream India or mainland India and those in the northeast. What is the difference between the two? They're talking about forest dwellers and forest. You must know that Meiteis are the only one who still worship forest gods. If you look in the literature, uh, if you even in the 20th century itself, you will see that how the Britishers and people describe the settlement in the valley itself. It is among these groups of woods and forested areas. And as I told you, there we have something called Lai Harauba. Anybody who knows Manipur will know that they still worship not a single household of Meiteis, in that area. Everybody is affiliated to one forest god, and we celebrate it as Lai Harawa, which is part of the Manipur cultural thing also. So, that people started calling forest dwellers and, all kinds of categories without looking at the specific nature of the state. Even people have been propagating that SC Meiteis had decided the number of seats reserved for the ST rather than realizing that this is a constitutional norm. All India level, even in parliament, you have 47 seats, which is roughly around 8.6% of the total population of ST in India. So proportionally, you have this 8.6% of seats reserved in parliament. It is thus in the rest of the country. And you must know that people often talk about 20 tribal. It's not. It's only 19 seats are reserved for AST. Kangpokpi is effectively, it's an unreserved seat, but is effectively won by tribal all the time. And those non-tribal, like Meiteis who inhabited in that area, are deprived of contesting, in some of the tribal constituencies, such as in Tengnopal, in Churanchampu. These are political right questions that people Meitei residing in Churanchampu don't have a right to fight the election, and they can only vote. So you can see a very systematic way of analysis. And people talked about this distribution and underdevelopment. They didn't even dare to ask questions the fact that this state has a topographical dimensions of the problem. There are demographic issues. Even in Prime Minister's Yojana, even today, if you don't have a 250 population in a village, in a tribal area, you can't have a road connection. This is a part of the scheme. So if you think about many of these villages out of that scheme, so there are a law and order situation. For 50 years, Manipur is under armed conflict, and the writ of the state barely runs in the hill areas. So what kind of development can take place when you don't have a proper law and order situation? And you have this, what is often called by economists as neo-patrimonial economic structures, which have a cascading effect on the development projects because of the corruptions and percentage cuts by these political elites and so on. There are objective factors to look at, whatever differential patterns of development in the state. But unlike that, deeply communalized, you don't expect an international airport in Churanchandpur or Ukhrul, for that matter. There are things to be done, if they're, whether it's a perceived or real differential patterns, and one must objectively address rather than communalizing the whole issue. But unfortunately, there's been even this incident across national media. There's a one-sided narrative. It is sometimes suffocating and to listen to these kind of debates and write-ups. That's the situation that we face. So these misinformation must be cleaned. I want to end with this remark. The issue in Manipur, had it happened somewhere in UP, Bihar, or anywhere, just take a guess yourself. Honestly, look within your heart and mind. Would the national media, would the state, would the general population have responded in a similar way or not? It's also a moment where the fault lines between the Northeast and the rest of the country also gets manifested. That you're concerned, and you guys are running a program like this. It is a welcome part of it. But I think that I was told that you'll be discussing the Home Minister's visit specifically. You want to discuss on illegal immigration, on development, please do that. And there are very informed people who can participate in and objectively discuss these things.